Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 5 of the LineTime Sports UFC show. This is LineTime Rick at Rick on X. I'm joined by my good friend, the Hammer, at LineTime Hammer on X. And please don't forget to follow LineTime Sports at LineTime Sports on X. Big week of news, it seems, in the UFC. Just as we started recording, pretty much, we got the news that USADA is going to be out. There's going to be no more testing with USADA. That's starting December 31st, or I guess January 1st, you could say, of next year. That's a big deal.
Yeah, their contract ends December 31st. So yeah, January 1st, it will be a different organization. I mean, they're gonna have to do drug testing, obviously. But the reason USADA was so great is it's hands down the best testing agency in the world. I mean, they test Olympic level athletes. So I mean, that's huge news, to be honest. Like, if I was a MMA fighter right now, I wouldn't necessarily be too happy to be hearing that news, because I mean, they're gonna have to go with a different organization. Obviously, it's not gonna be like no drug testing, but at the same time, like, that's the main reason. Like, these other organizations don't do USADA. Like Bellator, they have drug testing agencies, but it's not USADA. It's not the cream of the crop. So yeah, that's huge news. What do you think about it?
yeah. I mean, it's not to say that steroids are legal
Back
again
in,
to take
back,
in yeah, the UFC.
TRT Vitor back.
Yeah, Alistair Overeem is back,
Yeah.
looking like a full-grown horse, but I mean, it's gonna be a lot easier to cheat the system, pretty much. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot easier for these guys to take cycles before their fights, and it's gonna change the game, especially with in their statement that they released, it was talking about Conor McGregor, how he
Yeah,
had
so
re-entered
that
the
was
pool.
that was interesting. So yeah, I would like just read the statement a little bit. Yeah, you sent it to me. And so it seems like they were like the UFC was pushing for it to be less than. So like, the thing with USADA, you have to be in the testing pool for 6 months, and you have to um have two negative tests before you can compete. And so it seems like the UFC was asking for leniency on Connor's situation, and the UFC didn't want to do that. Is that
Yeah,
what I
that's
get?
pretty much how I took it is, I think the fear is that Connor's not gonna test clean because he just re-entered, and I think that
Yeah,
maybe I think that the goal always has been and is to get Connor on that UFC 300 card.
300. When is that?
Um,
Yeah, so it's before. Is it for sure before the 6 months would
it
be?
is. I
Okay,
think or
so
it's right around the 6 months. I think it might
yeah,
be right at the borderline of 6 months, but either way, I think one of the big reasons behind that USADA statement is now that, like, as soon as January 1st hits, it Connor doesn't really technically need to pass any more tests at that point.
yeah,
So, I think that that might be the biggest effect, like, short term from USADA. Long term, like we said, it's a whole new ball game now. It's back to what it was. I think 9 years ago, USADA started maybe 8 with the UFC. So it's going to be back to those roots. Back when guys were, I mean, like you said, Vitor was on TRT. Alistair, Brock Lesnar, these guys were very obviously on the juice. It could very well go
yeah.
back to that. So we'll see. And then a couple more announcements. One today specifically was Paulo Costa is out. He had been tweeting this week about how he had to get some sort of procedure done on his elbow. He had, I think, 10 stitches put in. And he was tweeting about, I want to be here. I'm in Abu Dhabi still. I'm training. I'm training with one arm. I'm going to be able to fight, but he's not going to get the doctor's clearance. Dana has confirmed it. And he's also confirmed that Kamaru Usman is going to be the replacement. He's going to go up to 185 and fight Khamzat. And also, Dana had just confirmed that the winner of that fight is next in line to fight Sean Strickland.
Oh,
This,
nice. I didn't see that he confirmed that.
yeah, that's brand new. So I mean, this is a big deal. And
Interesting. I didn't.
yeah,
So like, I'm super excited for this fight. I think it's a great stylistic matchup. I didn't know he was going to do that. Like, I thought it was more Kamara, because I don't know. Kamara he's expressed, I guess, maybe wanting to go up to 185, but that was when he was champion, right? Like when he said
yeah,
he cleaned out the division. So I didn't realize, but I mean, at the same time, he lost to Leon Edwards twice. He probably sees an easier route to getting the title shot out middleweight with having 2 losses to
Leon.
to Leon. So I mean, I understand it. Yeah, that's good for him. Like, might as well go for it if you want to try to fight for the title again here soon. Like, it's a good matchup. I mean, taking on 10 days against Cosmo, that's a tough task. But at the same time, like, Usman has the style to beat him. Like, if when we watch Cosmo and he's just so dominant, it's by taking people down and just doing whatever he wants to him on the ground. I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Usman. Maybe he will. I mean, he has that great Dagestani wrestler, but Usman's a D2 national champion. He almost made the Olympic and world team when he after nationals and stuff. So he's a great wrestler. And even more talking about that, like, he's a better MMA wrestler. He mixes in his striking well with his takedowns and all that. So it should be a great fight. I mean, who do you, who do you have in this one? If
Um,
you were if you were to throw some money on it.
I think, man, I'm gonna give it another week to truly, really see how we feel about it. I'm sure we're gonna talk about it next week, but
Yeah,
at my gut feeling, I think I'm gonna stick with Khamzat. It's just, he's I mean, it's kind of and Usman is big. He's
yeah,
naturally big, but it's tough to go up to 185, and it's tough. I mean,
for sure.
Khamzat's been preparing to fight Paulo Costa, who is so strong, so muscular, so big at 185. So I mean, I think I like Khamzat. I think I like Khamzat against Paulo. It'll be interesting to see what the odds are at, and kind of
Yeah,
going
that's what
back to what
I'm
you were
interested
saying
there.
about Usman expressing interest going up to 85. I don't know if he was like public about it, but I think this way, Dana said, I guess if he beats Khamzat, he'll get the fight at 185 against Strickland. Which, again, I'd like to see what the odds are set at, but I think I kind of favor Kamaru Usman in that potential fight. And then
Yeah,
if he wins at 185, and if Colby beats Leon at 170, I think that can set up uh, Kamaru going back down to 170 to fight for double champ status. And I mean, that is such a quick turnaround after having 2 consecutive losses to Leon.
for sure. That's a good point about if Colby does win, that gives him another route to maybe fight Colby again. Because obviously those 2 fights with Colby were so close. Like, the first fight, he got finished in the fifth. Colby got finished in the 5th round, but a lot of people had Colby up 3-1 or 2-2 going into that. And then the second fight, some people thought Colby won 3-2. Some people thought Usman won 3-2. So I mean, it was, yeah. That's a very good point. I'm interested to see what happens with that
Yeah,
one.
there's so that one really there's a lot of shakeup. And speaking of shakeup, we saw last night too, Charles Oliveira is out of his fight next weekend against Islam Makhachev. It was posted today that the cut that Charles Oliveira sustained on his eyebrow, very obviously he wasn't going to be able to fight with that cut. That thing is going to reopen 100% if he takes the fight. So here he is again, man. Alexander Volkanovski just doing what Alexander Volkanovski does. He's stepping in 12 days notice. He's taking the fight against Islam. He's 3 months removed from having surgery on his hand. This man just does not give a fucking shit, right?
Yeah, he's
Like I'm
insane.
sorry to
He's
be so
insane.
profound, but like I mean, this guy, he's the man. He
Yeah.
does whatever it takes, man, to certify his legacy. And this is an interesting one. It's really hard to beat somebody twice, and it's really hard to beat somebody of Alexander Volkanovski his
Yeah.
stature twice. So
Yeah.
I think that I want to hear your thoughts on it, but I'm kind of leaning towards Volk.
Yeah. I mean, I, I think Volk fought amazing in the first fight. I thought it was super close. Um, I will say, like, Islam's striking did impress me in that fight. Like, yes, he didn't strike the whole time. Like, yes, he was taking him down, but like, I mean, he knocked him down once, if I'm not mistaken, or at least rocked him. Like, so Islam has very good striking. I just think, like, personally, comment taking this on 10 days notice, going up a weight against someone like Islam is just. I feel like that's such, like, an unwinnable task for anyone except Alexander Volkanovski. Like, that dude is literally insane. So I'm definitely not going to bet against him, and I'm going to be rooting for him pretty heavily. But at the same time, like, I think, like, he should have probably turned it down and taken a full camp before doing that. But at the same time, man, like, I can't, like, he's giving the fans what he wants. And like, talked about this before. Like, he doesn't care. Like, if he loses, like, he wants to go for it. He wants to be a double champ. Like, he doesn't care about, like, the consequences of losing per se. So, I mean, it's gonna be a great fight. I probably would lean Islam just because taking on the 10 days notice, and Islam has to prepare for Alex. Like, it's a different opponent change, but Islam had a full camp. Like, that's that's tough to do for anyone. So I mean, I'm gonna be rooting for Alex pretty heavy in that one, but it's gonna be a tough fight for him,
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
obviously.
So those were some fun little events that have happened this week. I think that we're gonna now recap what happened last week, starting with the main event, Bobby Green and Grant Dawson. Uh,
You saw that one coming, right?
well, I was gonna say, I mean, we were watching it together. I went to go take my dog out for a second while the walkouts are happening. I come back in, and the fight's over.
Yeah,
So I mean, and we kind of said a little bit. We touched on saying that it's kind of. I mean, it was unbettable to take Dawson at a minus 400, whatever he was at, and there's definitely
yeah,
value to take Bobby Green at the plus 300, whatever he was at.
for
And
sure.
well, I mean, he made that evident. It was about 20 seconds long, hit him with a left hook, and as soon as that left landed, the fight was over. He cleaned it up a little bit with some ground and pound, but as soon as that punch landed, it was over.
Yeah, like, I can't say I was gonna thought it was gonna happen like that. Like, Bobby Green's a pretty solid striker, but at the same time, like, he usually doesn't knock people out like that fast, like, out cold. He's kind of like a point fighter in a way where he's cool to stay on the outside and jab you, and, like, not even just like a point fighter, but he usually never comes out that fast. I think it was more attributed to Grant was just so aggressive, like, and I don't know, it I guess, like, I'm not surprised he didn't shoot right away because, like, what? It's 20 seconds, like, into the fight, like, he doesn't wanna go out there and get Ben Askren flying knee, like, net like, because Paulie Green knows he's gonna try to take him down at some point, so I understand standing with him a little bit, trying to land his, good calf kicks and his outside leg kicks, but, yeah, I mean, hell of a fight for Bobby Green. Hell of a win for him. I don't think by any means that's the end of Grant Dawson. I don't think that's like a complete hype train derailed. Like, people have to realize it's MMA, 4 ounce gloves. Anything can happen. Like, so I mean, great win for Bobby Green, and I think Dawson will be back. But yeah, I did not expect 25 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it was. Like, insane.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
for a plus 300, man, that's insane. So, yeah, if anyone had money on Bobby Green, hats off to you. I didn't take him. Kept talking to you about it. Like, I wanted to do it, but yeah, I just didn't have the balls to pull the trigger on it. So, it was
yeah. Like I said,
a
I
great
felt
win,
pretty
though.
comfortable just like kind of being missing for the first minute or two of that fight. I thought it was going to go the full 25 in favor of Dawson, and I was wrong. And you're right, that's just MMA. Moving on, Joe Pfeiffer, he beat Abdul Razak Al Hassan by submission, which might have been a little weird, but we kind of knew that that was going to be the outcome when we talked about it.
Yeah,
So
Piper was mostly. I did refrain from taking the Alisson plus 1,000 knockout. I think it got down to plus like 800, but it's just like it's not worth it for me. But at the same time, like, Piper showed some new things. Like, he showed some really good takedowns, which we haven't really seen before. Like, he kind of just has knocked people out in his uh, previous fights. So yeah, Piper looked really solid. So good for win from there. He was what, a minus 400. So like you said, not really surprised, but yeah, great win there.
yeah, and maybe one I was a little surprised by was the one that handed the show's first defeat. It was Joaquin Buckley defeating Morono. That was a little, painful, but, I mean, Joaquin Buckley looks so good, man.
Yeah,
He looked like he's taking that next step.
like we said, we Buckley talked about how he wanted to be more patient and really like kind of change the narrative like of the way he fights, like him only getting for knockouts, like kill or be killed narrative. He wants to move up in the rankings, and he did just that. He did a good job of pacing himself, not getting tired. When Morono was pushing, trying to knock him down, knock him out, he was doing a good job of countering him very well, but not over extending on anything and letting Morona recounter him. So yeah, I mean, Morono didn't look as good or like even as like fast as he usually does. Like, I mean, you can attribute that to Joaquin Buckley, but I also think Morona kind of had an off night. But Buckley did a great job of taking advantage of it. But
Yeah.
well, I was just gonna talk about, yeah, my pick obviously got got screwed. It got called off literally like what 3 4 hours before the fight. Guess Felipe Lins got I think they said he got sick, so I don't really know what was going on there. I don't know if it was like a really bad weight cut or something there, or he just really got sick. But yeah, so got a void on that bet, but uh, that sucks because I really thought he was going to get it done. But I'm sure the UFC will try to reschedule that at some point. But that was a fun fight for the fans.
Yeah, and you start to wonder maybe, Iwan Cutabella saw that you had bet against him, and he said, "There's
Yeah,
just no way. There's
he
just no
got
way I'm fighting."
he got a little scared. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, it was yeah, that kind of sucked. But what other fights were we gonna
We
recap?
saw, Drew Dober and, Ricky Glenn. Drew
Yeah,
Dober looked so fresh. I didn't know
destroyed,
going into it that he had a
destroyed
child
him.
recently, and that is a passion play.
Yeah,
New father, he's gonna win. It's, of course,
yeah.
by knockout.
You get superpowers when you have a
Right, like,
kid.
that's just something that we seem to see all the time.
This kid
Karolina
was
Kovalchevich too, beat
yeah,
Diana Belbita.
yeah. Like we said, I think that we hit that one nail on the head there. Like he just kind of she just kind of just picked her apart. I will say Belbita surprised me with her power. I've never really seen her like hit at anyone and like them actually like feel it to the point where they're like starting to back up. So that happened a couple times, but other than that, like I thought Belbita was going to use her reach a little bit more and kind of pick her apart that way. If anything, like that would be her route to victory. But I mean, she wasn't able to do that at all. If anything, that was kind of what Cage, whatever her name is, did. I can't say it. I don't even want to try. But if anything, that's what the Polish girl did. So I mean, it was a good fight. It was honestly pretty exciting, but yeah, it was that one was a no sweat to go the distance. I think it was pretty heavily favored it for it to go the distance, but yeah, that was a good
Yeah,
one.
and I think we touched on that too. Like, it was one of those fights that if you want to take that to go the distance with another girl fight to go the distance, it's probably going to hit. And I'm pretty sure all the girls' fights in this card went the distance. So, I
Yeah,
mean, but again, the odds, even if you parlay them, aren't going to be super crazy.
yeah, it's just a system play at that point. Like,
And the one last fight I think I wanted to talk about, or at least bring up from last week, was Bill Algeo and Alexander Hernandez. That was a really good fight.
yeah,
They
kind of
both
like
showed a
we
lot of
said,
heart. Yeah,
with like it was gonna be back and forth. Like they were hitting each other with big shots, and like it was one, if you did bet it to go the distance, you weren't going to be super comfortable. I was surprised, like it was like minus 130 to go the distance, so I feel like the books kind of knew there that like they didn't want to be overexposed given that plus money. But yeah, like we said, it wasn't going to be one you were going to be comfortable with, but we were pretty confident that it was going to end up getting the distance, and Bill Algeo was going to come out on top. And yeah, he looked good. I thought he was gonna wrestle a little bit more, which he didn't need to. Like he used his reach very well, made it hard for Alexander to come in there and land those big shots that he likes to throw. So yeah, get on Bill Algea getting the win. His who did he call out? He like called out a bunch of stupid names, like not even
I
UFC
think Mark
fighters.
Zuckerberg,
Yeah,
maybe Elon Musk.
and
Yeah, he
then
loves to
he
do that.
then he actually did. I think he said like an actual name at the end, like Billy Q or something. Which that would be a good fight.
It'd be a really good fight.
I think that's what the UFC should go next with him and Billy Q. That'll be a fun fight for the fans.
Yeah, and like we were saying when we talked about it, neither of us are really the biggest fans of either of those guys, their personalities per se. But it was a really entertaining fight. Bill Algeo is such a unorthodox striker. Alexander Hernandez, who, I mean, he's had his issues, but man, he was tough in there. He really
Yeah,
stuck in and he battled through adversity in that fight. He did lose, but it was one of those fights where it's like there really wasn't any loser. They both really helped their stock a little bit.
I
But I think
agree.
that's going to do it for the recap. And we're going to jump into this week's card. And we're going to start right off with the main event. Featherweight. This is a bit of a banger. We got Sadiq Youssef, the number 11 ranked featherweight, versus Barboza, the number 13th ranked featherweight. Sadiq Youssef's coming in minus 160, Barboza plus 140. Um, Sadiq Youssef, I don't know if I know that you've seen it, Hammer. He likes to make the pick videos where he makes his picks and just mispronounces every name on the card. He's a real funny guy.
Yeah, he
Uh,
kind of yeah, it's like satire. He like kind of just he like just pulls up the pictures of the guys and kind of just like makes his picks off that about their like by their names and how they look, which is pretty funny. Yeah, he's like a fan favorite definitely on Twitter. I feel like.
Oh, for sure. And he's 7-1 in his UFC career, which is it's real good. And he's coming off a round one submission win over Don Shinies. And he has over a year layoff, kind of scary. But
Yeah.
Barzo and Edson Barboza is coming off a round one knockout win against Billy Q, who we were just speaking of. So
And Barboza was a pretty big underdog in that. I know he was an underdog. I think he was at least like plus 160. So like, yeah, I mean that was a great win for him because he knocked Billy Q out in the first round, if I'm
yep,
not
first round
mistaken.
knockout.
Yeah, I think I had like money on that uh fight to start round two to end a parlay, and I was just like so pissed because I was like I was just surprised Billy didn't try to wrestle at all. Like he did not try to wrestle in that fight. And if you're gonna stand with Edson, it's not the best strategy for most fighters. Like he's one of the best strikers in the world. Like he has multiple highlight reel KOs. So yeah, this one I think is a very fun fight because Sadiq Youssef's also a striker. Like you said, he had a submission win in his last one, but he likes to strike. He's a pretty methodical striker. He hits hard. So yeah, it should be an interesting fight. Think I was a little surprised by the odds in this one, if I'm going to be honest. I just thought if anything, it would be like a pick 'em or maybe the odds flipped with Sadiq being a slight favorite there, or with Barboza being a slight favorite. I mean, so yeah, it's gonna be a good fight. If I'm probably not gonna bet this one because I think Youssef obviously like he's younger and I think he is very fast, and I think that could give Edson some problems. But I think Edson's the more dynamic striker, so I really could see it going either way. If I'm gonna be completely honest.
Yeah, and I think as we were saying about Billy Q, how Barboza was the underdog, how we're surprised he wasn't using his wrestling. I think this is another kind of scenario where I'm surprised Barboza is the underdog. I'm surprised they're giving him plus money. Um, I Sadiq Youssef, he's younger, he's quick, he's a good striker. He might be in the prime of his fighting career right now. It's
Yeah.
just Edson Barboza. He's a guy that's been there, done that. He's had the big fights. He has some crazy striking. I saw today on social media they're doing some conferences, and he was asked about. He posted this picture, and he looks so cut, so big right now. He looks so muscular. And it's weird to say that a guy that's 37 years old is anywhere near his prime, but like I mean, from if it's any indication in his last fight, he hasn't missed a step. I mean, he's a solid guy all around. Every time he's in there, he has a chance of finishing the fight. So I think we're going to talk about it a little more as we get further on in the podcast. But I do like Edson Barboza in this matchup. I like Sadiq Youssef a lot too. It wouldn't surprise me if he could pull it off. I think it's a hard test for Youssef. I don't know if Youssef has had a test that's this tough. So
Yeah, I don't think he has. Like that, I agree with that 100%.
going into the co-main event, it's Jennifer Maia in the flyweight division, the number 9 ranked flyweight versus Viviana Ruhau. Maia's coming in at a minus 155, or Ruhau's at a plus 130. I think we're going to talk about it a little more later. Specifically, you're going to talk about it a little more later, Hammer. So
Hmm.
I'm going to pass over that one for the time being and get into the next fight, which is a bantamweight. And that's Jonathan Martinez, the number 13th ranked bantamweight, and Adrian Yanez, the number 14 ranked. This one's basically a pick 'em. Uh, for good reason, I think, too. Jonathan Martinez is coming in off of a decision win over Saeed Nurmagomedov, and Adrian Yanez is coming off a round one knockout loss against Rob Font. Again, it's another one of those fights where it was a step up in competition for Adrian Yanez, and it didn't go his way. So, what are your thoughts on this one? I'll get into them in a little bit.
Well, my first thought is this fight's going to be a banger. This is probably the fight I'm most excited for on the card. If I'm going to be completely honest, like both of these fighters are very solid strikers. And not just strikers. Like they're primarily boxers. Like yeah, they kick a little bit, but like you're gonna see this fight in a phone booth, and it's gonna be pretty fun. I honestly, I kind of am surprised that they gave Martinez, like it's a pick 'em essentially, but he's like a slight favorite. What is it, minus 113 to minus 105? I'm gonna probably bet a little bit on Yanez, and like with saying that, I did fade Yanez's last fight against Rob Font. I mean, I was just shocked that he was the favorite, to be honest, and I can see why. Just because Font's coming off a couple wars, where he literally got pulverized by Cheeto and those last couple rounds. Like he was looking really good to start, but a lot of people kind of just thought his chin was going a little bit, which I can see with how many wars he's been in. But at the same time, like Fawn's been in there with such great strikers. Like I feel like I had to play him that last fight, and yeah, he knocked Yanez out, which I've never seen Yanez get knocked out before. That might have been his first. Because yeah, I think his only losses came outside the UFC. One to Miles John. I think that was a decision in Bellator. So I don't think he's ever been knocked out before. So, but coming and I don't necessarily like to bet a fighter that just got knocked out their last fight. But at the same time, I think you're getting pretty good odds on this one. I like Martinez too though. He's a really good fighter. I think I was on him when he fought Sayed too. Like he is just a really solid striker, and Sayed isn't a great striker, and he didn't wasn't able to get him to the ground. So it should be interesting for sure. This is probably my favorite fight as a fan. I'm probably gonna bet Yanez. Haven't completely made that decision yet, but if I were to bet it, I'd bet Yanez. How about you?
Yeah, and this is a fight where maybe I get in live.
Yeah,
I think see how the first round, maybe even the second round goes. And another thing I'm going to be interested to look at. We've said it once, we've said it multiple times on this podcast. We don't know what the over under rounds are going to be set at when we
yeah,
record. I
yeah,
think
for
that this
sure.
is going to be an interesting one to see what they set it at because I do think that it's going to end in a knockout. I think I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm going to side towards Adrian Yanez. It's just both of these guys enjoy being the aggressor. Both of them go forward. Both of them like to strike in a phone booth, as you said. Um, Adrian Yanez, his boxing is just so clean and crisp.
Yeah,
And it was a tough fight against Rob Font his last time out, but Rob Font is always going to be a tough fight. Like
yeah,
he's established. He's been there. He's done that. He's fought all these big names, and he's won a lot of the big name fights too. So
yeah.
it wasn't.
He knocked out Marlon Moraes when people didn't think Marlon Moraes was completely washed yet. Like, yeah, I mean, Fawn is a great fighter, and then if you look at him when he fought Cheeto, like I said, yeah, he got pulverized in the fourth and fifth round, but like he might have won 3 rounds before that. It was just you knew he was about to get knocked out at any point in that fourth and fifth round just because he was well, it started in the third round for sure. So like he won the first two, and then I think that's when Cheeto kind of started lighting him up in the second half of that third round. And then you could just tell like the power difference was huge. And not even just the power, like the durability. And that's I think Cheetah's biggest asset is he is so freaking durable. Like he doesn't get knocked out. He just kind of stays in there. If anything, like the biggest knock on him is just the fact that just his activity, his output. Like sometimes he just kind of lets a fight go on without really pushing the pace, like in that Sandhagen fight. So yeah, I mean, it should be a really good one. I'm
Yeah,
excited
I
for that one.
agree. I agree. And I think that this is probably my favorite fight. I'm gonna briefly just go over this next one. It's a catch weight against Edgar Chairez and Daniel Lacerda. Edgar Chairez minus 305, Lacerda plus 245. Pretty reasonable where that line's set at. I think Chairez is pretty likely to get it done. But this next fight, if Yanez and Martinez isn't my favorite fight on this card, this one is. It's at middleweight. It's Michel Pereira versus Andre Petroski. Michel Pereira minus 185, Petroski plus 155. And Petroski's coming in on late notice for this one. Michel Pereira was supposed to fight Marc Andre Barriault, who pulled out. And I think injury was the reason for that. And
Hmm.
Petroski was willing to come in late notice and take it. We knew that, and we had talked about that Michel Pereira was supposed to fight Wonder Boy a couple weeks ago, and Pereira pulled out, um,
No, Wonder.
or
Well,
Wonder Boy.
he missed weight by
That's it.
3 or 4
Pereira,
pounds. Yeah,
which is a
but
grave mistake because you
yeah,
can see that Pereira. I mean, Petroski is nobody to scoff at, but a fight between Petroski versus a fight against Wonder Boy, it's
yeah,
just
it's completely
completely
different.
different. It's
Yeah,
completely different.
he essentially blew his shot. I mean, obviously, like if he wins against Petrosky, they're gonna try to move him up. But at the same time, like you're right, like Petrosky is essentially a no name outside of people that really like watch MMA or like the Ultimate Fighter. He was on the Ultimate Fighter, and Wonder Boy is a household name. Everyone knows him. It's just like the classic striker versus grappler matchup. It's gonna be a good one. I think I'd probably lean Pereira here. I've bet Petrosky before. I think he is a pretty solid fighter. He's a good grappler, but Pereira, he's just a dynamic striker. I obviously think he has a pretty heavy striking advantage. Every round's going to start on the feet. But I could see Petrosky doing well in this one, especially early on. The thing about Petrosky is he kind of wears on the fight as the fight goes on, especially because he's such a grappling heavy fighter. Like when you do that for so long, and he's jacked. Like there's no way around it. He's jacked. So when you're that grapple heavy, um, you're you're that strong, it's gonna wear on you. It's gonna affect your endurance. So I think that's the biggest knock on. But at the same time, like that's kind of the story on Pereira too. He gets tired as well. So I would probably lean Pereira, but I mean, if you're gonna bet Petrosky at plus 152, I think there is a little bit of value there. I'm not gonna bet this one. I just kind of think Pereira is gonna get it done. How about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and going back to the last fights, Petrosky is coming off a split decision win against Gerald Mearshart. Michel Pereira is coming off of a decision win against Santiago Ponzinibbio. I just, I like Andre Petrosky. I
Yeah,
might root for Andre Petrosky, but I don't think that Petrosky is gonna get it done. I think the route to victory for Petrosky would be shooting some takedowns and working ground and pound that route. But I think that Pereira is probably gonna have the advantage on the feet. He has this awkward style of fighting, and like you said, they both seem to wear out and they get tired. But I just I yeah, I think I'm gonna have to side with Michel Pereira here. And I think that we're gonna have to take a break for a quick moment before we get back in and we round off the rest of this card and kind of talk about our favorite picks a little bit.
sounds good.
Just to kind of round off this main card, we're gonna get into the last fight. It's a bantamweight against Christian Rodriguez and Cameron Simon. Rodriguez coming in minus 162, Simon plus 136. Rodriguez coming off of a decision win over Raul Rosas, which kind of threw the MMA world for a loop. We kind of thought that Raul Rosas was going to come in, set the world on fire, bring his undefeated record, and I mean, it wasn't necessarily the greatest showing from Christian Rodriguez. The best thing he kind of did was survive and
No, yeah,
drag it
yeah,
out.
I was just gonna talk about that a little bit. Like he looked good, don't get me wrong, but if anything, it was more like Rosas just like kind of kept going, trying to grapple him and gassed himself out so badly. Like he had success kind of in the first round, got him to the mat, but I think he even took his back at one point, and that's like he was trying to finish a rear naked, I believe, and he just kind of gassed himself out. Like he was so persistent and trying to finish the fight like that way, which I kind of understand. Like Rosas has showed some pretty decent striking against lower level opponents, but at the same time, his bread and butter is his grappling and his jujitsu. So yeah, I think Rodriguez looked good. I kind of like Simon in this fight though. I have so I watched him on the Contender Series, and then I've watched I think what he's had one or two UFC fights now, and I've watched him pretty much every time. He's a good striker. He's a young South African kid. The UFC doesn't have many other than him and Duplessis are the only ones. Oh, JP
And his
Bias
brother.
technically. Oh, yep, yep. JP Bias. Like the UFC doesn't have many South African fighters. If you're a pretty solid African fighter, you're gonna find yourself in the UFC at some point. And I think Simon's a pretty good bet here. If I'm gonna be honest, I was close to having this as my favorite bet. I'm not gonna lie. Really do like Simon in this fight. I'm gonna bet him. I think didn't like it enough to make it my favorite bet, but yeah, I think Simon is a very good striker. I think he's very calculated, and I think he's gonna have success in this one. I think it's gonna be on the feet. I think both fighters are gonna have their moments, but I think Simon's just gonna be a little bit more technical, a little bit more um, smart, better fight IQ. Yeah, so I'm gonna take Simon. I think in this one,
Yeah, I'm
but
pretty
yeah, it should be a
surprised
good. It should.
he's the dog. It's kind of
Yeah, I
surprising.
mean, I it is, but at the same time, Rodriguez is coming off a win. He was what plus 250 at least in that
At least.
Roses fight. So people really thought Roses was going to take it to him. So I think that's a little skewed in the fact that he won that fight. But like we said, I think that was more about Rosas Jr. than anything that Charvez did or Edgar Charvez or whatever his name is. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I agree, and, Simon's gonna be putting his 9-0 record up, in that fight, and alright, so we're gonna get into the prelims a little bit, and there's, 2 prelims that I wanted to talk about. The first one is a featherweight bout against Darren the Danger Elkins and TJ Downtown Brown. Darren Elkins +170, TJ Brown -205. I think those odds have actually came down a little bit, but,
Yeah.
Darren Elkins is coming off a decision loss to Jonathan Pierce. TJ Brown, he's coming off of a round 2 submission loss to Bill Algeo, who we talked about. We saw him fight last week. Both of these fighters 1 and 2 in their last 3. I think that this is a pretty fair spot to put the fighters. TJ Brown around a -200, Darren Elkins +170. Darren Elkins is always super aggressive, super in your face, not afraid to fight in a phone booth. Pretty good top pressure. He's not the
Yeah.
greatest at shooting takedowns and getting the takedowns, but if he finds himself on top, which somehow he usually does, he has really good pressure from the top. It's just yeah, I don't I don't know. I don't think that, I think TJ Brown is younger, more explosive, got a little bit more in the tank per se.
Yeah, I mean, Elkins, he's a wrestler and he's very tough. That's kind of been his thing his whole career, and he literally just doesn't care. I mean, his nickname's Danger, and that fits him perfectly. He literally is in danger almost every one of his fights. He's not the best striker, but like you said, he's a wrestler, but it's not like he like really times his takedowns very well. He kind of just like shoots constantly, and like at some point is going to get you, and he has a great gas tank. So that scares me a little bit. But and also TJ Brown, like he's impressed me in a lot of his UFC fights. Like he doesn't have the best record, like he's lost a couple. And the thing about that is he doesn't have the best fight IQ. Like he looks very good in fights and then kind of either like fades a little bit or like does something stupid and loses a fight that way. Like his last fight was against Bill Algeo, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and that one he was having success, and then Bill Algeo hit him with a awkward shot, and I think he ended up submitting him, or maybe he ended up getting a knockout on that one. But yeah, TJ Brown, like he showed in spurts, like very impressive stuff in my opinion, and that's gonna be the biggest thing. Like if he can fight this fight smart, I think his wrestling defense is pretty solid too. Like as long as he isn't getting super tired, I think he is a very solid fighter. So, I mean, at -220, I'm not gonna play that, I'm just not gonna play that, straight, but so we'll just get into it. I think my favorite bet my, best bet in this one is just gonna be, a TJ Brown and, TJ Brown and Jennifer Maya parlay, to be honest. I think, well, I'm just gonna talk about TJ Brown right now. I just think he's most likely gonna win this fight, and I don't think it's gonna be super competitive. I think his only chance is really if TJ Brown makes a really stupid mistake to let Darren get on top of him and wear him out that way. I think his takedown defense is good enough to hold Darren Elkins off, and I think his striking's way better. And I kind of could see TJ Brown just putting his lights out in like 2 minutes, like one of those. He has power. He has very good striking. So yeah, I do like TJ Brown. He does make me nervous because he doesn't have the best fight IQ, but I just think Darren Elkins is way past his prime. He's been in so many wars. Yeah, I'm gonna go TJ Brown here.
Yeah, and I feel like every time we watch Darren Elkins fight, he just always finds himself in danger. He gets busted up. He's getting beat up. And but sometimes he will, like I said, he'll find himself on top. And once he finds himself on top, he has great control time. I think that you're right in that TJ Brown is going to be able to finish him.
Yeah, I think
And
it's gonna be early too, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see on that one.
Yeah, and just one more fight that I want to talk about a little bit on this card. The last prelim is it's a short notice bout. It's between Chris Gutierrez and Alatang Healy. Chris Gutierrez -400, Healy at +285. Chris Gutierrez was supposed to fight I think Montez Jackson last week. That fight got pulled off, and Alatang came in and took this fight on short notice. Gutierrez coming off a decision loss to Pedro Munoz, and he had a long win streak before that. Alatang coming off a decision win against Chad and Helgier. Uh, I think that it's right to have Chris Gutierrez on -400. Right, before that Pedro Munoz lost, he was riding a pretty good wave. He was, I mean, obviously they matched him up against Pedro Munoz. I just think that
I was just surprised that he was that big of a favorite against Pedro Munez. Like, I was on Pedro Munez for that exact fact. Like, people look at Pedro Munez and how many losses he's had in a row, but you have to look at the fighters he's fought. Like, he's literally fighting top of the division. I mean, Cody Garbrandt, Sean O'Malley. I'm kind of blanking on now, but like, he's literally fought the top of the division for how long? So like, I was just shocked by that, but I think that's just more like comes with the um like the recency bias, like seeing Gutierrez's great win streak, but at the same time, his only big win, in my opinion, was against Frankie Edgar. And that's a Frankie Edgar that's been knocked out how many times in a row. He retired after that fight. It was his last fight. Like, so yeah, I think Gutierrez is good, and like I understand him being a -400 here. It kind of seems like a fight they gave him to get back on track. So I mean, I think Gutierrez does get this done pretty handily, but I mean at -400, like essentially they're making him unbettable again, unless you like the other guy, but I don't.
yeah, it's not like you could do very much with this fight. I think that maybe if it wasn't short notice, it might be a little shorter, a little more kind to Alatang Healy, but it isn't, and for good
Yeah,
reason. Like you were saying about Islam getting a full camp. Gutierrez had a full camp, fighting for a different kind of fighter in Montez Jackson, but like
yeah, for sure.
same
But
sense. He's coming off with a full camp. He's fighting a guy that I probably would already have Chris Gutierrez beating. So it's not like anything is really siding with Alatang Healy. So I think the -400 is justifiable. Maybe parlay piece that Chris Gutierrez money line, but I mean it's probably just a fight I stay away from in general. But
yeah,
I think that's going to transition into at least my favorite pick. You talked a little bit on your favorite Jennifer Maya TJ Brown money line parlay. We'll get into that a little bit more, but
yeah. I'll
my
talk
favorite,
about that second leg a little bit more after you go here, but
yeah, for sure. And my favorite pick this weekend, I like it a lot. It's plus money, it's plus 140, and it's Edson Barboza money line in that main event. Like we were saying earlier, I just and I really do like Sadiq Yusuff. Like I said, he's younger, he's fast, he's a good striker. It's just like I said, Edson Barboza is tried and tested. He's fought everyone.
mhm.
We know what his striking is, and it's really good still to this day. If you look at him, you don't see a guy that's going on 40 years of age. You would think that he's closer to Sadiq Yusuff's 30 years of age, but it's just it for me. I'm gonna side with experience over age in this scenario.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with you in the fact that yeah, I just think there is value on Barboza. I don't know if he's going to get done, but at the same time, I don't think you can pass up that value if you're a betting man. Like I think the play here is Barboza. So yeah, I would agree with that. And
Yeah.
were you going to talk a little bit more about it?
No, I think I was just gonna ask you your feeling on the Jennifer Maya half of your parlay.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that a little bit. So, Jennifer Maya's what, like a -170. So I think honestly she could be a bigger favorite. I think she's a really solid fighter, and I think she's just really good at what she does. Like she's gonna take you down, she's gonna look for submissions, and not even that, she's good at controlling you. I think I was on her in the or I at least leaned her way in that Casey O'Neill fight just because she was such a big underdog. Like Casey O'Neill's a pretty solid striker. She's an up and comer. People think she can be a potential champ one day, and I'm not. I don't. I think she could too, but at the same time, I thought that was a big test for her, especially fighting someone that's so grappling heavy like Jennifer Maia was, and she won all 3 rounds, I think, in that fight, and kind of made it look easy. And yeah, I think she's just really smart and really good at what she does. Um, Aruja's coming off 2 losses, and one of those being to the champ, Alexa Grasso, or yeah, she's still the champ because that was a draw. Okay, yeah, so she is still the champ. One of them coming off against Lexa Grasso, and then Amanda Rebos, who is another up and coming fighter that people have a lot of high hopes for. Yeah, so she's 1-3 in her last 3, and that's not like those are good fighters she's fought. So I'm not even really taking that too much into account. I more just think stylistically, Maya matches up very well. Like Arujao, they're both Brazilian, so both have pretty solid jujitsu. But Arujao is more of a striker. She's more of a I want to knock you out, stand up with you, and she definitely could have some success on the feet. Like I probably would lean her a little bit on the feet, but at the same time, like Maya is just such a good pressure fighter, and like she doesn't accept fighting you at your best position. Like she's gonna try to get the fight to the ground, and yeah, she's coming off two very big wins. And like if you look at her two losses, her two recent losses, so she's 3-2 in her last two. She lost a man Furiette, who's a great striker and very long, and then also Caitlin Chukagian, who's another long striker. Like, and Aruja doesn't have that kind of length, and I think that's where Maya does very poorly when she fights someone that's that long and can pick you apart and can fend off takedowns because of their length. And I don't see that in Aruja. Like, I think this is a fight that's tailored to Maya, where she's just going to be able to take her down most. I think she's going to take her down every round. To be honest, I think she's going to take her down early and often. I don't think it's going to be that much of a sweat. Obviously, she's a -170, so um, it's not like obviously like she's almost 2-1 favorite. But yeah, I'm going to parlay her with TJ Brown, and then you get at least on FanDuel, which is the book I use mostly. I think you get plus 131 there, so you get a nice plus money. And yeah, I think both those legs should be pretty no sweats in my opinion. So yeah, I'm gonna take both of them there and get plus money.
Yeah, just, speaking a little
My
bit on
best
your
bet.
Jennifer Maia leg, I think that, it kinda goes back to how we talked about, Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Diana Belbita. I think that Jennifer Maia is just kind of in a different league than Vivian Arujau, and that's me trying not to be disrespectful to Arujau, but more respectful to Jennifer Maia.
Yeah,
Like you brought up, she's fought some big names in her past couple of fights, and she's won a lot of them. So I think that she is a level above Vivian Ruhal. I think that it's a gift that you're getting her at these -150 or -170 odds, whatever it's at right now. It's one of those
yeah,
bets
minus
that
170
yeah, I would honestly consider throwing 170 on her to win
to win
$100.
100. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
I
how
like
she
her a lot.
loses. I like her a lot too. I think that like I said, I think she's a level above Vivian Ruhal. Yeah, I like that bet. I like that money line parlay. And I think that's gonna do it for this upcoming week of fights. And I think we're gonna touch on the Contender Series finale a little bit. Like
Yep.
I said, it's the finale yesterday. It was a pretty good finale. It wasn't the best episode of the
Yeah,
season.
good. Good, yeah, it was a good way to top off a solid season. I'm pretty sure Laura Sanka said that was the most contracts Dana's ever handed out in a season. So obviously the fighters came to fight this season. So yeah, I mean it was a great way to top it off. You got finishes. You got some pretty electric finishes, if I'm going to be honest. Like there was and a couple of fighters, man, they really did impress me. But yeah, I think did Dana give everyone a contract except one guy?
He gave out 5 contracts yesterday, bringing the season total to 46. Which, like you said, it broke the record of 43. Which I'm not sure what year the 43 was set. It might have been last year, but
Mhm.
the past record was 43. They got to 46 this year. 5 yesterday. The only person that didn't get a contract was Finney. He got the second round rear naked choke. He was a he looked like
Dude,
the
he is
Hulk,
mad. Dude,
5'8", 185, one of the biggest
massive.
dudes, and it was shocking to me that he didn't gas after that
Yeah,
first round. He just
yeah,
constantly shot takedowns. He was active. He was trying to get that fight to the ground. I thought coming out round 2, he was gonna be gassed, he was gonna get finished, but it was the other way around. He got one of his takedowns, he got his back, and he secured a rear naked choke. But like Dana said, he's only 24, and there were some definite holes in his game
yeah. He.
too.
I was just gonna talk about that. Yeah, Dana said there was the main reason he didn't give him a contract is he's so young and he thinks he would pretty much be doing a just disservice to him by giving him a contract this early and throwing him to the UFC. Because like, yeah, the kid, he definitely has potential, and like he literally looks like the Hulk. Like he's everything you would like want in a UFC fighter, and the fact that like looks and wise and stuff. But yeah, like you said, he looked a little outclassed on the feet, and he kind of just looked like he was like gonna gas because he was just pressuring for those takedowns so much. But yeah, he got in the second round I did think Dana was gonna give him one because he finished the fight and just the look of him and how massive he is, like, I think it's just great marketing for the UFC. Like, I really have never seen anyone like him, like, just so big and massive. So, yeah, I think that kid definitely has a bright future. But yeah, that sucks for him though. Like, getting a finish and being the only one not to get a contract. But he looked fine with it. He kind of understood where Dana was coming from. So I think Dana will give him another fight next season on the Contender Series, most likely. And if he wins that, I think he's in.
Yeah, and speaking of second, Contender Series appearances, Connor Matthews, I think his first name is Connor, he got a unanimous decision. He's fighting out of the New England Cartel,
Hmm.
esteemed gym, great gym. Like I said, it was his second appearance on the Contender Series. He got the W, he got the contract. The one that kinda surprised me was Bittencourt. He was the first fight. He got a knee knockout in the second round, but he missed weight by 5 pounds.
Yeah, that's bad,
So,
man.
I'm kinda surprised Dana gave him a contract because of that. I mean, like we had said earlier on in a couple of our podcasts, Dana not only uses the Contender Series as a platform to find new fighters, but almost as like, "Hey, here's how you get in. I'm giving you a chance, be aggressive, do this, do that." And it's
Don't be
surprising.
stupid and
Don't be
miss weight by
stupid.
5 fucking pounds,
And
dude.
it's not
Like,
like he
that's
missed it by
so
half a
bad.
pound. It's not
Yeah.
a full pound. It was 5 full pounds. Like, that's really bad. So I'm
And you got
surprised
and
he
you
got a contract.
and you gotta think here too, this isn't a championship fight, so that means you're getting a pound already. So essentially you missed weight by 6 pounds, right? So it's
Yes.
that's bad. I mean,
And
if you're
so
yeah, if you're talking about championship fights and actually making the flat weight of like what you would have to fight if you're gonna be fighting in a championship fight, championship round. So yeah, I mean, good on him. Like, he did what he needed to do. He had a sweet knockout, and I think that's obviously the only reason Dana gave him one. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard, in my opinion. It's hard to reward a fighter like that missing by that much. Like, I get it. Like, if I were Dana, I'd just been like, all right, I'm gonna give you a second chance on the next season. Like, great knockout, but I have to see you be able to make weight first before I give you a contract. But I mean, Dana liked what he saw, gave him the contract.
yeah, and the knee, it was a nasty knee right up the
Yeah,
middle. I mean, it
it
was
was
great
sweet.
knockout. It's just, and I think it was Paul Felder that said he was kinda recapping on who had impressed him the most and who hadn't on that night, and he had, Bittencourt dead last because of the 5 weight miss, and I agree. I agree
Yeah, I
wholeheartedly.
mean, like, that's the thing, like, no matter how impressive you look, you missed weight by 5 pounds. So, yeah, I agree with Felder 100%. Like, you're already gonna be at pretty much the bottom of the list, especially with a fight card filled with so many, finishes. I mean, makes sense.
Yeah, but all in all, like I said, it was a good finale. It was a great season. Like we had said a couple times, it broke the record of contracts given out. 46 people, 46 new fresh faces into the UFC thanks to the Contender Series. So another successful season. And I think that one more thing that I want to bring up before you and I head off is we talked about it at the end of last week. This is officially the week of Dylan Dane.
He's in London.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
there.
Did
He
you
was
watch did
marketing
you
today.
did you watch his open workout?
I didn't, and I need to, but I saw him choke out El Brook, I think it is, and
Uh,
of that.
yeah, I
That was
saw
kinda
that.
weird. The marketing strategies that Dazn uses, they're fun, they're
Yeah.
lighthearted, they're just a little weird. Um, but, he's there. He's there to market the fight. He's showing up to everything. So I think that I'm gonna retract my statement from last week when I said no, and I think I'm gonna change it to a yes. I
I
think
mean,
they will.
dude, he could still pull out. Like, I'm not saying he won't, but I just want to talk about that open workout was hilarious. He was literally he was doing it with Phil Hawes, who's a UFC fighter. If anyone's a big UFC fan, they know who Phil Hawes is. They're pretty good buddies. They train together, and he was pretty much just doing jujitsu the whole time. Like, he was like hitting pat. So, like, no, I talked about a little bit about how I think he's trolling with how bad his striking is, because I physically don't think you can be that bad training for how long he's trained. Um, yeah, so I think he's kind of playing into that a little bit more, where he doesn't really want to show. Like, he would hit the pads like real slow, and then just like do an Imanari roll and like roll a heel hook, and and then he was also trolling Logan a little bit. Like, Phil Hawes would get flat on his back, and Dylan would get on the top rope and do like some swanton bomb bullshit on him, and like he was trying kind of trolling him with the WWE stuff. So yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, I think the fight's gonna happen. And like I said, man, I do think Dylan could look a little better than people think. I mean, I just don't think he's gonna win because of the fact that Logan is so much bigger than him, and I think he's on steroids. I mean, yeah, it should be good, but yeah, Dylan still could easily pull out. I'm not I'm not saying that's not happening for sure, but
I was just saying, I think that all the signs are pointing towards that he's gonna fight. And like you said, so you think that Logan is gonna win just because he has,
he's
uh,
so much bigger than him, man. I
how
think that.
about KSI and Tommy Fury? What do you think in that one? Since it's happening this
Um,
weekend, might as well throw our opinion out there, right?
yeah, I mean, I think Tommy Fury's gonna win. Like he should win, right? He's like technically a real boxer, and I mean, did beat Jake Paul, handed the almighty Jake Paul his first boxing loss. So yeah, I do think KSI is like pretty obviously pretty decent for a YouTuber or whatever he does. I think he plays video games. I really don't know what he does, but he's very popular in the UK. So he's gonna have the fans behind him. But yeah, I think Tommy Fury is probably gonna spoil the night for a lot of UK fans. That's technically the main event, right?
Yeah, that is the
Okay.
main event because
Yeah, and it doesn't
UK
feel
versus
like it.
UK in the
It
UK.
doesn't
I
feel like
know.
it.
Well, it's because
It
Dylan
makes
Danis has
sense.
really stole the show. I
Yeah,
mean, just from his
essentially.
Twitter antics, he's the one that's marketing this fight. I don't, and that's the thing about Tommy Fury is he doesn't really make an effort to promote these fights because he doesn't
Yeah,
really need
he
to.
doesn't care. He
Yeah,
doesn't really care. Like he's making more money than he could like make
to
boxing.
fight people that he should soundedly beat in boxing. So
Exactly. Like if you look at Tommy Fury, I honestly can't tell you what his record is. He might still be undefeated, but like he fights people that are boxers that are like 3-8 or like 2-10. So it's like he's just I think it's the route for him is just kind of keep doing this. Like he's a very like good looking, strong dude, but like and he's has the name Fury, but at the same time, I don't think he's the best boxer. I kind of think it's just going to be a decision. Like I don't think Tommy Fury's going to knock him out. He doesn't really have like that much power. So I think he probably just point fights him to decision. Is what I'm thinking in that one, but
and I think that's one thing that KSI does have is a little bit of
yeah,
power.
he does. That's why I'm kind of interested to see if he can knock him a little bit. Because KSI technically, KSI, I think he draw like when him and Logan Paul fought, it was a exhibition. So I think they ended up calling it a draw. But I remember watching the fight, and I was like, I thought KSI won that fight.
Well, they
So
did fight a second time, and they did give it to KSI, and
oh,
it was
okay, they did give him
it
the
wasn't
second
an
one.
exhibition, it was without the headgear, and they gave KSI the second one, but, I mean, unfortunately, I'm gonna watch these fights, I hate myself for it, and I hate that we're at this point, but
Yeah,
curiosity kills the cat. I wanna see how it goes, especially if Danis does fight Logan Paul. It's just at this point, if Danis does pull out, I don't know if Mike Perry is in the UK right now. I know that that is who would be the
the
backup for that
backup
fight, or
fighter.
at
Yeah,
least that's what they've been saying. But I
I feel like they had to have flown him out just with all the what
you think
like
so?
Dylan Danis has done in the past. Like he was literally scheduled to fight KSI, and he essentially just pulled out because he said he didn't think KSI did anything for him. So yeah, I think Danis does show up, and like you said, like I kind of hate myself for it, but I'm excited for it. I'm not gonna lie. Should be
Yeah,
a
I mean, and honestly, if Danis does end up pulling out, if it is Mike Perry, I think Mike Perry's gonna beat Logan Paul. Mike Perry is a
yeah,
psychopath. I mean, that
yeah.
guy
I
doesn't
mean,
feel pain.
yeah. I mean, I think it's just like pretty much the worst backup fighter you could ask for if you're Logan Paul. Like it's good in the fact that like Mike Perry has credibility. Like he's has multiple wins in the UFC. Like he's destroying it on the bare knuckle boxing scene right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just think that's a horrible fight for Logan Paul if Dylan Danis does pull out. So if I was Logan Paul, I'd be praying that Danis does show up to the fight.
Yep, I agree, and I think that that's gonna do it for this week's episode of the Line Time Sports UFC show. tune in next week for our recap of this past week of fights, and we'll finally be able to talk about more in depth UFC 294 as we were talking about at the top. All the fight changes. We're going to talk about that full main card for sure. Such a good fight card. So you guys won't want to miss that one.
For sure. I will see you next time, Rick.
All
Have a
right,
good night,
Hammer.
man.
It was a pleasure.